It's 10 p.m.
All right.
Oh, we're live.
You're live?
I think I'm live. Says I'm live. We're probably live. Hey, everybody. Sorry, it's always awkward. There's always this weird lapse as YouTube's trying to decide if we're actually live or not. So I never know when the recording is actually going to start. How's it all going, everybody? Let me send out links and all that and, do all the things YouTubers are supposed to do. Boom, boom. Someone's watching. All right. Well, here we are. It's another episode already. This is the first Monday in a while I've had to work. Usually I work weekends and I have Monday off.
It says you're live.
Yeah. Yep. I'm live. Thank you, wife. Look at
YouTube notification. Thank you.
that. YouTube's finally notifying people. We're not completely ghosted. Just, slightly ignored. Anyway. Oh, man. I'm going to be a little over the place. This might be a bit of a faster one. I'm not going to lie. This isn't my favorite episode. It should be one of the better ones. But it just didn't flow the way I like. So I might end up rewriting it in the future. But we're going to get into it. It's still good stuff. And we're talking about giants and Nephilim and the flood right now. We'll be jumping a little more into the Tower of Babel. That one, because I feel like the flood and a lot of Nephilim giant stuff has also been done a lot. If you've watched that kind of, if you're into that kind of thing. But I'm also going to pretend a lot of you might have not heard about this, or you might be Christians who have always kind of glossed over it, or one of those churchian types who just maybe might believe that these are just Jewish elders or something weird. Wait, what is the big thing? Cain's children mixing with like Abel's line or something. I forget what it is. Seth's line. No one explains why giants would be a result of that, but hey, we can move on. Oh, man. I don't know how long I should do a preamble. One of these days I'll have a fancy...
Because I'm not next to you, that's why.
Yeah, I'm all lost without my wife. There she is. She's still here. You're over there. It's not, you don't want me to show them your mess? That's wow. She got a little behind today. Just a little. It's partially my fault. I let the dishwasher soap run out, and we had to do emergency.
I thought that was a storage container. It's like an extra shelf.
Oh no! I moved, and the game is gone. Vampires! Darn my bald head! Come on! Get your game together. It's all right.
It doesn't help that you're whiter than me.
And my head is so white. Okay, it'll fix itself. We're gonna start sharing the stream. We'll get right into it. Start the thing. I know all of you have read it. Duh. Just shut up, wife. But this is part of the reason why we do this. Oh, there we go. Why we do these streams is because I can give you guys more details, especially when I feel like, for whatever reason, the lesson is a little lacking, but I need a little more time to get it done, but I want to give it to you guys, right? It's good that I can expand upon, and it helps me as I go through it over again in my final edits to figure out what really needs to be fixed. But let's get into it. And then there were giants. Now, I'm sure a lot of you, being the Social Galactic crowd, have actually... Okay, that's the wrong bar. I'm a boomer, apparently. Kind of already know about the giants. But yes, if you're new to Christianity, giants are very much a thing. And come into very interesting... really think the right word, context when we review the previous lessons that we've come over. Remember, we've gone over the fact that Genesis makes it pretty clear that we were designed by God to take control over the earth and bring it into the kingdom of heaven. Colonists, gardeners, very violent gardeners in some ways, right? To subdue the primordial chaos of the earth, because for whatever reason, not all of the earth was perfect. Only the Garden of Eden was. The creation was good. not perfect. Only God's perfect. Even even angels sin, as we've seen with the whole rebellion and all that. So, it's funny when I do this. My son's starting to pick up my mannerisms now. He'll like he'll do this, but he doesn't know why I do it. So he'll just like when he's angry or frustrated, he'll just. It's so cute. Freaked out my wife a couple of times though. It's just like, he's not autistic, is he? And then one day I like did this in front of my face and went, oh, that's why he does that. Oh man, maybe I'm autistic. I don't know.
That kid has fallen so many times. I wonder.
He has a big head, and apparently it's attracted
Like
to the
his
earth.
dad.
I won't say my head is attracted to the earth, but it is attracted to this light.
Your mom would have a different
So
story.
bright. So, with that note, it brings into clarification what the angels, the rebellious angels, were doing when they created their children on earth and the giants, right? It's more than just they're horny, though that was definitely part of it, right? But there is more of a goal, if you know what I mean. And we'll get into that as we go. Obviously, you can get a lot more details of this, like the Book of Enoch, but there's also hints and weaves of it throughout the Bible, the same themes. But for now, I'm just going to get into the lesson. We get into a lot of them as we go through future lessons. One example that I find really interesting that I can't remember, I don't think Dr. Heiser talked about is Jesus's parable about the vineyard, right? And the workers who keep killing he hires people to run the vineyard, right? And they keep rebelling and killing all the people sent to get the portion for the owner, right? It's a clear metaphor of God, creation, and the rebellion on earth. The funny thing about it is, if you look at it, why are these vineyard people rebelling? Because they want the vineyard, right? That's just kind of strange, right? That to me tells me that there's more of a metaphor going on there, because humanity already has the earth and God was already giving the earth to humanity. We wouldn't need to rebel to receive the earth, the vineyard, if you will. Who needed to rebel to claim the earth? Right, the rebellious angels needed to do that. So Jesus is literally calling out these rebellious angels who are trying to claim creation from God. And yeah, good stuff. But future lessons, I don't need to get all into it into the same lesson. So we'll get started here. Now we approach the part. Oh, sorry, lesson 4. I know it's the 5th stream. We had an intro stream. Shut up. Lesson 4. And then there were giants. Now we approach the part of the story that churchians gloss over or ignore altogether, jumping ahead to the flood and animals coming onto the ark with nebulous hints at how immoral man was, so God killed him off with a global flood. As usual, when you wash out all of the spiritual and wild parts of the Bible, you make the entire narrative nonsensical. We go from Eden to the fall, to the first murder, to the whole world needing to be destroyed in a blur, which makes God seem spiteful. And that is the point. That's the point. God's immortal, for now, enemies have fashioned lies about him in culture, and in the watered-down, overly feminized churchian zeitgeist, we contend within our own denominations and congregations. Not everything they do is a perfect plan of inversion, but because they have generations of planning on their side, we shouldn't be surprised when long-term stratagems of the enemy bear twisted but effective fruit in unforeseen ways. Just remember, as we study the tactics of our enemies, that our Father in heaven has beaten them at their own game to the point of hilarious embarrassment. There is a reason why they hate you. Christ is your Savior and your protector in heaven. Hate you, Christ your Savior, and your protector in heaven so thoroughly. We'll get to all that soon enough. Yeah, so a big thing that I think a lot of people, especially in we'll call it the truther field or whatever you want to call it, the nebulous, not always Christian conspiracy field, who see a lot of the stuff but only have a partial picture is they ignore the fact that Christ and God's own planning has been so effective that just mentioning Christ's name sends demons running now. Like the power that they've done, like the trick of the cross, convincing the devil to basically sign his own grave, or however the spiritual stuff works, right? Through the cross and Jesus being the ultimate sacrifice, was an ultimate manipulation that puts all the crap we've dealt with since the Enlightenment and the Renaissance. And sorry, guys, the Enlightenment thought started in the Renaissance. So Catholics can't just blame Protestants for that. You guys had the Renaissance. You had Galileo right there. You were funding him. You did a lot of shit. Protestants, though, Enlightenment, not good. What were you doing? I know you were overly rebellion. That's called pendulum swing. Bad. Stop it. Anyway, the point is, wife's laughing at me. She's like, I'm from a Coptic country. We kept ourselves in the right path. Ha ha ha. Yeah, as you murdered each other viciously and let other people murder you.
I blame Genghis Khan for that.
I blame the Jews personally, but excuse me, I'm on YouTube. Lizards? No, is that worse now?
That's very slithery.
Very steamy. Khazars. Yeah, Khazars. Very particular. It's no wonder I can never freaking get this channel anywhere. The stuff that slips out of my mouth. I can't censor myself like other people do. I'm not good at it. Oh, that's okay.
Sigma at heart.
Yeah.
Can't even hold his own tongue.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I should probably learn. Well, you put it that way, it sounds sinful and ridiculous, but that's okay. We're here to say I have trouble not saying the truth, man. Anyway, so, right. Churchians, right. And this is part of the reason why I need to work on this lesson a bit more, I think, because I feel like it doesn't flow the way it should. Sounds really nice, but this doesn't flow the way I want it to flow, baby. So, we'll get back into it. In the case of the churchian culture or modern fake Christianity, this heresy was fashioned to push men towards atheism, animism, various false spiritualist philosophies, and Buddhism in particular, while making those who stay nominally Christian as useless in spiritual warfare as possible. If we look at it as psychological warfare, we can see an obvious generational move to neuter God's followers on earth. The flood account is just another one of these moments that the principalities of darkness to subvert the biblical narrative by overly simplifying or feminizing the text to make it more appetizing to those uncomfortable with the Lord's judgment and ostracize those with strong moral standards. Woo, that's a mouthful right there, boys. But basically what I'm trying to say there in simple English is how many times have you gone generational Christian people, right? How many times did you go to a Sunday school class and you had a little craft and you put the lions like in the ark, or you drew an ark or whatever it was? It was like, oh, happy flood and all the right. It's this weird feminist happy-go-lucky lions are all happy with the sheep. We're gonna ignore all like the millions of people. Yeah, and we're gonna ignore like the billions of people that just drowned over here. Don't look at that. Look at all the cutesy animals. Like, all the animals died too, except for these ones. Ignore all that. I think the best example of this in just general culture, if you've ever watched the Evan Almighty, was it Evan Almighty? Which one was the second one with the ark? That one. Look it up. That one. Yeah. Which it's nonsensical since he's technically Noah. The title doesn't make sense, but they wanted a franchise. What are you going to do? Well, there's this scene where God, played by a black man, is sitting down with a family, and he's like, people like it when, excuse me, it's Morgan Freeman does it. Yeah, he played God. People like the story of the ark, dude, because they like it when God gets angry. But, I think it's a love story because all the animals came together as couples. And then what?
Sounds like someone who's been used to an abusive relationship.
It's like, pardon me while the entire world drowns. Right? And what's important to bring up with this, when you oversimplify it and you don't look at this stuff, right? You create a situation that when young minds are starting to come into their own, and especially the ones who are a bit smarter than everybody else, but not smart enough to come up with enough concepts on their own that they get to the truth, midwits, okay? That they do something, they'll see this, they'll see all the simple Christian imagery and go, but wait a minute, all these people are dead, right? They can't make the more jumps or the just let God have it kind of situation. And you'll have this with all the stuff like when we'll get into with Joshua and all that, where they're literally throwing babies off cliffs sometimes, right? And all you have to do, we'll get into it in the lesson, is look at how atheists talk, and you realize they're just a bunch of midwits who saw all the simplified, watered down Christianity and saw God as a disgusting, evil tyrant, which, that the Christians were trying to cover up with all their gushy-wushy talk, which is exactly what churchians do, right? And a lot of it's just so they don't have to see it, if that makes sense, right? Their little love sugar daddy in the clouds is the best way to put what Jesus is to the churchians. That is what they view him as. He's their sugar daddy that gets them everything they want as long as they're good boys and girls, right?
Or the golden retirement.
Yeah, and gives them all the reason to feel like they're better than everybody else. I wonder if I've lost people. Okay, but we'll get back into it. So when we'll get into, all right, there's a verse. When man began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attractive, and they took as their wives any they chose. Then the Lord said, my spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh. His days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord regretted that he had made man on earth, and it grieved him to his heart. So the Lord said, I will blot out man whom I have created from the face of the land, and man and animals and creeping things and birds in the heavens, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Genesis 6, 1-8. As a boy, I often wondered what a world corrupted to the point the evil justified the complete slaughter of every man, woman, and child on earth would look like. This seemed overly harsh to my young mind, and a more impressionable youth might have let that be a starting point towards the path of tolerance or even atheism itself. With modern events as an adult, I can see where God is coming from on a simple moral level. There seems to be a point of no return in society where the world is in such lockstep that no amount of change is possible from the few who disagree with the majority. However, young minds don't work that way. One only has to look at the army of smug atheists who derive most of their beliefs from their youth to see that a mind is formed and an identity is formed from the roiling emotions and passions therein. Atheists, for all their bluster about science, seem to always come back to a central idea. God is a horrible being who allows or even causes all the suffering on earth, and thus hate him and those who follow him. Ironic that they hate which they claim does not exist. I, for example, despise Gollum in The Lord of the Rings, but that doesn't lead me to insult every fool who finds his story tragic rather than obnoxious. Like it or not, atheists as a whole have a childish spirit of rebellion, which is always yelling at God for being a psychopath in their head. I think, that just kind of clarifies more what I'm talking about. A big reason why it's important that we start taking stuff back from the churchians and seeing the Bible for what it is is it actively drives younger, smarter boys away from the church. Because they see things like the killing and all the death in the Old Testament, and then they're just told to ignore all that and say, oh, the cross makes that all better. No, right? The killings still happen. And if you take out the fact that God is fighting a war, an active war, and many humans and many descendants of these evil angels and watchers that came down have rebelled against him and are fighting against him and are trying to corrupt the world and take it for themselves. Remember the vineyard analogy. Then it does look like God is just a psychopath. And, you gotta deal with that one way or another. I'm just going to keep going here. Probably going through this too fast. In fairness to the atheists, the churchian false faith makes God appear as a nutcase holding the world in a coliseum of death and suffering. The flood is one of these events that is used as a cultural bludgeon against God and Christians alike. Of course, they snicker at the idea of a global flood, even as their own darlings in the science realm declare proof of all-consuming disasters from ages past in the earth itself, or the concept of putting 2 of every animal in a single boat, even as they claim every animal came from a single mutation so many eons ago. But their real issue is with the flood at all. How dare God destroy the world because people weren't doing exactly what he said? And that's the truth, isn't it? It's very rare that I run into an atheist these days. It's very rare that I run into a true atheist these days anyway. But the point is, they rarely actually bring science to the front when talking with Christians. It's almost always like a glossing over basic science, the scientific and concepts that they barely understand themselves, to a straight attack of morals and like you're evil people and God's evil and you don't, God's not good. You just say he's good and all this other stuff, right? It kind of underlines their real purpose in all of it. All right. So the Nephilim, parentheses, giants, this is translated giants in the Bible. And later on, we see that their offspring are, in fact, giants, despite all the translation attempts to gloss over that. Goliath is a giant, 9 feet tall. We have Og, who, there's all kinds of attempts to gloss over the fact that dude was really huge. But there were other ones that were really big, as big as 13, 15 feet. On the earth those days. Also afterward, when the sons of God came to the daughters of man, and they bore children to them, these were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. Epic of Gilgamesh comes to mind. You get the idea. All these big time civilizations like Babylon and whatnot have these long stories and epics talking about these crazy gods and heroes of the past. Just as we established in previous lessons and on these streams, remember, a lot of those are just straight up describing fallen watchers and rebellious angels of God and their children. Right? In these stories, how many of the heroes and men of renown are literally children of the gods? Achilles. I got Greek ones in my head right now, but we said Gilgamesh, of course. Hercules. There's a lot of Lees. I believe. I don't remember if the Jason of the Argonauts was also a son of something, but you get the point. Now, I don't have time to waste wringing my hands on the various theories on the modern tolerant theologians have come up with to explain away these sons of God who are mixed with women to create giants and other things not mentioned in the text. Genesis makes things clear. Divine beings of God's heavenly host rebel against him and intermingle with human women, creating giants and powerful beings of old, which leads to man falling astray from God so thoroughly that none follow him but Noah and his family. The question I want to explore is whether or not the creation of giants by the rebellious sons of God is just a side note in the text, or is this connected to what led to the collapse of morality of man, which made the flood necessary. Dr. Heiser goes into this a lot more detail. Think of this as more of an introduction to that. I would argue a direct connection implied in the text. We could include works like the first book of Enoch to add more details supporting the claim. But let's stick only to the Bible in these lessons, at least until you have more of a foundation to face the wilder side of the world God created. For now, let's look at the rebellious sons of God who came and made their offspring. And this is a big one. We will get into more of the occult stuff as we go, and some of the apocryphal books. But especially if you're a young Christian, I want you to be careful when you start dabbling in that stuff, because you invite things in when you do too much of it. Some stuff is nasty, some stuff is harmless, but bad ideas. Uh, there are landmines out there, and I don't want to mention some of them that I'm even thinking about, because I know a bunch of people are instantly going to look it up. Like, stop, wait, calm down. You don't need all of that. Most of the knowledge you can actually find in the Bible and in some surrounding texts. I think I brought this up before, but it's worth repeating. When it comes to the books of Enoch, the first book of Enoch is proven to be as old as the Dead Sea Scrolls and older than that. Second and third books of Enoch are clearly medieval creations slapped on top of the work, trying to take advantage of it. So when I say the book of Enoch, I mean the original, not the second and third book of Enochs that were bad fan fiction slapped on top of everything. All right. These giants are at odds with the will of the Almighty at every turn in the Bible. From Goliath to Og to the giant clans in Palestine marked for destruction by God. Most of you have heard of Goliath. I'd wager a larger percentage of you, my dear readers, have never heard of the giant Og, whose scholars constantly wring their hands about, desperately attempting to downplay the implied size and weight of the 10 to 13 foot tall giant killed by Moses. Deuteronomy chapter 3. We can also go through various myths and mythologies of the world to find a theme of villainy attached to giants, from Jack and the Beanstalk to the Cyclops in Greek mythology, or even the original Wendigo stories of distracted. Pardon me while I drink iced coffee. That is good. That's why I ate it. All right. Whew. Where am I? All right. So the original Wendigo stories of massive demonic cannibalistic giants who drove you to insanity in your sleep. Humanity seems to have a collective memory of our age-old enemies, the rival colonists here to take the inheritance of man and deny the kingdom of heaven. Right, as we said. Remember, what we said instigated the rebellion in the Garden of Eden by the divine rebel in Genesis, the serpent. Man was created to take possession over the earth and creation. What was God's strategy to complete this task? Having man multiply over the face of the earth and subdue it and take dominion over creation to bring all into the kingdom of heaven like the idyllic garden. The enemies of God saw his plan and thought the idea was a good one. So good, in fact, that they decided to emulate it while sabotaging the Lord's own attempts to implement the battle plan with mankind. Giants in the half-angelic bloodlines were the children of gods, not the Almighty, sent into the earth to take possession of it, to subdue it, and take dominion over creation, to take our inheritance and birthright for themselves, and thus for their unholy parentage, the rebellious sons of God. These freakish offspring quickly moved to conquer and spoil the earth, as can be seen in history of various peoples of the time, and of course the Bible itself, with most of the original kings from the ancient past claiming to be descendants of the gods, Pharaoh included, which we will be getting to in later lessons as we read earlier. What's wrong with you?
Your face in the screen.
Good wife. All right, so what is this? Take this binky, woman. So that was a lot of reading, but you can see, right? We've been hinting at this, how, and I brought it up. The giants make more sense in this context. The angels, though they were horny, were trying to create a rival race to humanity, branching off of humans themselves. See, if they did this enough, they could almost engineer a bioweapon that would breed humanity out, or make it so there was no one descendant of Eve out there that could be considered part of the prophecy to
bioweapon.
Basically, right. Pollute the genetics enough that the prophecy that a descendant of Eve would crush the snake couldn't happen because there was no proper descendant of Eve anymore. Now, obviously, God makes it clear when it gets that bad, he's going to wipe everything out and keep a remnant so that we start over and keep going again. And a lot of astute people may point out, oh, God said he would never destroy the earth. No. He said he would never destroy it with water anymore. Funny enough, what are all the modern movies from the Hollywood hellmouth about the end of the world? Is it floods? I think I've seen one flood.
2012.
No.
Movie.
Yeah, that was the only one I saw, a flood, right? But what are they all about? Oh, that's right, fire. The sun scorching the earth generally, or a meteoroid killing everybody. Right? Fire, brimstone, right? That kind of thing. It's almost like they think the next time God destroys the earth, he's going to be doing it with fire, not water. A fascinating thing. And how do they think they're going to get away from it? They're going to hide underground in Sheol, in bunkers. Makes you wonder how many times the earth has actually been destroyed, actually. But, that's just me going off on wild tangents. But this is the time for tangents, I guess. So, oh, man. And I apologize for not going in fun tangents this one. I'm a little tired after work. Like I said, usually I don't work Mondays. But you got to deal with what you got. Man, I'm just running a blank on lots of things to do today. Yeah. You're very distracting now. Thank you. Oh, man. Oh, hey, there's a child underneath my table.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, all right. Angels not horny. They created the giants to be a counter to the human race. And try to take everything over. Take the vineyard away from God. Right. The freakish offspring quickly moved. Did I already say that? Yes, we did. All right. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, right? We read that. A treacherous but ballsy move. After all, to fulfill his will, God cannot destroy mankind. But at the same time, if he doesn't act, then all of man will be polluted by the blood of these rebellious gods, which would eventually, through propagation, make the seed of Adam and Eve non-existent, with whatever remnant left being firmly under the thumb of the giants and the rebellious gods, like when the Israelites were enslaved in Egypt. Essentially, nearly bred man out of existence, much like most of the Native American tribes are destroyed in the Americas, or the original Celtic inhabitants of the British Isles. Oh! Hi!
Doing that again.
Oh, don't ask. I don't know why that happened. If there is no true offspring or descendants of Eve, untainted by the blood of rebellious gods, then God's prophecy about a savior coming from Eve's line to crush the serpent's head cannot come to pass. God, of course, won't let his will be subverted, and so washes the civilizations of giants and other freaks, being propped up by their unholy sugar daddies from the face of the earth in a massive flood. No one and his family are spared to preserve the prophecy against the divine rebel. Things are essentially back to square one. God hasn't so much changed the game as much as flipped the board and slapped his opponents so hard they ran screaming home to mama, whining like a Jew in a bar fight he started. But like any stubborn brood of gammas, especially immortal ones, they always come back when you least expect it, like spiritual motivated foot fungus. And that's another thing, guys. The ride never ends, right? And this is why it's so important that we push our fight in a generational sense, right? Until the end, we're in this fight. So we need to push this knowledge farther into future generations. I'm not saying it will never happen again, but I would prefer there isn't another generation that pops up that has so many lies about this stuff that no one knows. Like, it needs to be a basic concept in every Christian's mind, not something practically hidden that you have to like drag out of people, and most Christians have no idea about these stuff we're bringing up in these lessons. They're so central, and they change how you view the Bible and the world and the earth and the spiritual war going on around it. Man. I did kind of jump into this just assuming everyone accepted the idea that there's giants in the Bible. There's no one here to ask right now. But if you have a issue with this, remember, I believe I told you this in the first lesson. I'm going to go where the text leads me. All right. If the text tells me that there are giants, or if the text tells me there's a Leviathan, or even a unicorn. Nah, maybe the unicorn was a rhino, but I doubt it. I can believe it. And I know this kind of breaks people's minds, but understand, in my short life, I have seen scientists go from saying the world would freeze to death, to melt to death, to be washed away to death, to be killed by cow farts in 30 years. Okay, I've seen dark matter being a definite for sure thing to, oh wait, dark matter probably not a thing, and it was obviously not a thing from the beginning, given that they're just saying that the majority of the universe is something that you can't see, touch, feel, or actually interact with in any sense of the word. Or, their equations are false and they fucked up. And now they're just admitting that. And I know most people don't even know that they admitted that dark matter does not exist. The point is, I have come to the conclusion that the Bible is much more reliable than scientific inquiry. So if there is a point where science says one thing and the Bible says another, it's more likely that the Bible is correct and the scientists are wrong. I mean, take with that what you will. Everyone's mind breaks. It's like, but evidence. But yeah, evidence of how many times you freaks have gotten it wrong. Why do I have to keep listening to people who get it wrong, lie, and then create systems to shut people down who point out that the theories are false? Why do I have to listen to them over and over and over again when they consistently get it wrong and don't correct their mistakes? You guys can't see it, but my child's head just popped up over a couch and smiled so brightly at me. So, I'm thorough about this, and I know a lot of young people are going to have a problem with it. But as you get older, if you pay attention, you're going to notice the same trend. And so, maybe there's an issue in translation sometimes. I won't say that there won't ever be a time where maybe there was a confusion about what the Bible was actually saying, right? But until that's proven, without a doubt, I'm going to side with the Bible on things, even crazy things. Remember, Jesus Christ raised from the dead and all that. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. So, when the Bible says the Nephilim, which translates the words giants, and were the mighty men of old, and that their descendants, which we have later descendants and Goliath and all that, who were abnormally tall and large, and one could argue freakish, as there were lion-headed men of Moab. And you know what's funny about that is I know some of you are already like itching on the keyboard, like, those were just guys in lion-headed headdresses. Dude, you know how many times I've gotten that? With people who have never heard that verse before. They have no context for what happened. I brought this up with not atheists, but not Christian. So people who weren't against Christianity, but one was a nominal Christian, but hadn't really got into it once. And they gave me the same word for word reaction that I've gotten from Christians before. And I just stopped and I looked at them like, there's no way that shit's a coincidence. That is literally a spirit talking through people, telling them, oh no, this is just a headdress. Like, what? I know that sounds crazy, but people aren't going to give you the same thing. Like it's not that like
it's like deja vu all
yeah,
over again, but
yeah.
it's a different mouth.
And this story is so obscure that people don't know about it at all. So the concept that everyone would have the same reaction at the same time with almost the same wording is almost impossible. So there's some spirit or something that really gets into people's minds and like tries to get them to say it, but it doesn't make any sense in that context. Like we can get into that story later, but basically, David's mighty men. If you know anything about them, they're these crazy dudes. We're talking guys who like to become part of this group. I don't want to see the cat. Show me the dog. Rosie, you've been summoned. Oh, she's laying here out of camera. You've been summoned. Anthony requires you. Here you go, Sky Dog. Bring your dog. We need to make more dogs. That's what it is.
Rosie gives a cat to the little girl, but she keeps tackling it.
He can't even. Oh, Sky Dog, it's been too long, man. Anyway, I'll complete the thought for the future people who don't know what's going on. If you don't know, I'm being harassed by a man named Sky Dog who thinks my dog is his dog. And I say, prove it, Sky Dog. Where are you at? But you got to feed her at least 5 times first.
Then we got someone else saying that it's like your 5th dog that doesn't even live with them.
They're all an embarrassment. But
You want the cat? You want the cat? Get the cat.
Oh gosh, my wife is causing chaos over here.
Right.
But so if you don't know, right, to become part of the mighty men of David's like super secret crew, you had to do something crazy like kill 200 Philistines in one go. Like I believe one of them killed a giant, like a 9-foot tall giant. He might have been 10 feet. I think he was like a foot taller. He was from Egypt and this big dude, and he killed them all by himself. This crazy mother trucker. Another one killed something like 500 guys all by himself. He fought so long that his sword froze to his hand. What the heck is my cat doing? Attacking the dog. Okay. Right. So these are insane, crazy dudes who are not intimidated by anything. And they're all together in a crew, and they run into these lion-headed guys, and they kill them. And then when they take a look at the bodies, they freak out. What does that tell you? That tells you the mighty men thought the lion-headed dudes were headdress guys until they killed them and realized the heads were lions. They freak out because more of these lion-headed dudes are coming at them, and they don't want to fight them. Remember, guys who kill 500 guys all by themselves, guys who kill giants without hesitation, are scared of these things. Again. Oh, man. Yeah, I will. And so they do this whole thing where they throw the bodies back to them and kind of like go, hey, yo, no foul, no party, go away. And the lion-headed men leave. And you never hear mention about them in the Bible again. That is not something of like, oh, they're just wearing lion headdresses. No, then they would have killed all of them. Because that's what these guys were like. They weren't intimidated by humans, right? A human wasn't going to freak out someone who literally killed 500 men in one battle. Like, even if that's exaggerated and it was just a couple hundred, that dude's not going to be intimidated by a dude in a lion headdress, is he? Right? You know, that's like you plot, like, you know, it's like you're trying to tell me that you plot that guy in the middle of a furry convention and he freaked out. Yeah, maybe he killed all of them, but he's not going to go, oh my God, they're literally, and you know, no. Right? I say all that to say, you got to accept what the Bible says. Don't try to change it to make yourself feel better. Because what do churchians do this for? They do this because they don't want to look stupid, because they want to look smart in front of all their atheist friends who hate them anyway and think they're dumb anyway. Because part of the atheist mentality is they're the smartest boys ever, and so everyone else must be stupid, and I must show that they're stupid. So my advice is don't worry about them. Don't worry about what the scientisty people think. Just go where the text leads you. And a lot of people might find the idea that a lion-headed man is a bit over the top, as they're literally just read a story about, you know, a flood destroying the entire world, or leviathans, or, you know, the description of this seraphim, right? The throne guardians. Now, of course, remember, guys, there's different types of angels. Some of them look very human. Some of them take on such perfect human form that you can't tell the difference between them and a normal human. Multiple times in the Bible, a human just talks to an angel, doesn't realize it, and the angel goes poof, and they're gone, or they reveal themselves, and oh my gosh, right? Other times, yeah. But then you have other angels, like these throne guardians, who have multiple heads, wings everywhere, and this crazy eye rolling wheel thing that follows them, and like the world shakes and there's storms all around them, right? Then there's those angels, those freaky things. So we don't know exactly how these watchers and everything who mixed with mankind, what they all were. And if some of their physical forms are that freaky, or their natural form is that freaky, is it really such a twist to say that maybe their offspring would be a little more freaky than just being a bit tall? But you know, it's just a theory. But we'll get back into the rest of this. Anyway, go where the Bible goes. I'm not saying you can't use like physical evidence and understanding and study the world and all that. Just understand that the Bible has an extremely intense track record of being correct. And even in my short lifetime, I've seen dozens of remember, before the Dead Sea Scrolls, they were trying to claim that Isaiah was written in the medieval period because it was too accurate compared to the story of Christ. This was the big thing when I was really, really, really young. And then, big thing before, I wasn't old enough for the Dead Sea Scrolls, excuse me, but you get the point. The big thing that I heard about from all my dad's pastor friends and whatnot when they were younger. There we go. Age. It's a funny thing. And then the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered, and there was hard proof that Isaiah was written hundreds and hundreds of years before Jesus Christ came. So there are dozens of things like that just in my lifetime. I'm not going to go through all of them because you guys keep hearing me cough, and it's horrible. I don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear that. So we're going to keep going. And shut up. And Skydog's going to steal my dog. We can't have that. Okay. So all these things are hidden from the majority of Christians, thanks to the heretical wife cult of modern churchianism.
Sounds like a hernianism.
Pretty similar, isn't it? God in their world just murders the entire world in a story illustrated by cutesy characters in Sunday school. Not a battle of will and bloodlines for dominance of the physical world. A world in total rebellion, a place we see glimpses of on the horrific Epstein Island or in Drag Queen Story Hour in our preschools. And if that is just a taste, we all should shudder at what the pre-flood Earth looked like.
Drags.
Yeah. The war, of course, doesn't end with the flood and the destruction of the original Nephilim civilizations that dominated man. The enemy is tenacious, and thus the ride never ends. So next week, we will explore the next rebellion, the Tower of Babel. Woo! My baby is wonderful, but she just took out all my bookmarks in my Bible. I am very sad now. I keep telling myself I need to write this stuff down instead of leaving bookmarks. Later, I will fix that. Okay. So, that's basically it. Part of me wants to get into more. I might just save that for future semesters before I get into lots of, detail. Because in some ways, a lot of it is clarified in the Book of Enoch. And like I keep telling you guys, I want to hold off on anything apocryphal for this first semester at least, because I want to establish that these concepts can all be found in the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament. The apocryphal books that we do study will just be adding clarification. A lot like how in the Gospels, you'll have Matthew gloss over an event, but then Luke will go through it in anal detail because he's a doctor, right? That's kind of what happens in a lot of the Old Testament books too. For example, if you've ever read the First and Second Chronicles and First and Second Kings, you really should be reading those kind of at the same time almost, because one will talk about an event with a lot more, like I just said, with more detail, and you'll get the whole story. You know, different writers have different interests that will find different parts interesting. Personally, I wish they'd done that with Judges too, because there's some stories that are just glossed over that you're curious about. Like, I want to know what Othniel did. What did that Othniel? It just said, oh yeah, he rose up, he killed a bunch of people, and he died. I'm like, what did he do? He was the first judge. It must have been interesting. But c'est la vie. What are you gonna do? So that's kind of like what the Book of Enoch is to a lot of these Genesis stories. It gives a lot of detail to what I have a baby climbing on my lap. A lot of detail in a lot of these stories that are kind of glossed over in Genesis because different writers concentrate on different things. But yeah, for now, I think we're still getting into it. All right, questions. Question 1. There are many scholars who shy away from the idea of giants being actually giant rather than just taller than the average man. Dr. Heiser included, by the way. Why do you think theologians and biblical-minded historians, Dr. Heiser included, gosh, it's a problem when you read your own work, you clarify when you don't need to, are terrified of the more mythical-sounding elements of the Bible? So, I already got into this, but let's get into it a little more. Right. The churchian is not obsessed with what God thinks of him. The churchian is obsessed of what the atheist world thinks of him, of what science. They want to look smart, not dumb. Like, accept me. I'm not like all those rubes out there who believe in God. You know, I do abortion in my churches. Come on, I'm so tolerant. Love me, world. This is the churchian.
You do that.
This is literally churchians, right? This is what they do. This is what they care about. This is what the modern pastor thinks. This is why the modern pastor is a functional atheist. Because
pastors are becoming butch women.
Because pastors, if you're in a bigger church, pastors, your job is actually really easy. I'm sorry. I know everyone freaks out because everyone wants to think their job is really hard. From the steel workers who actually have hard jobs to the guy who cleans up poop on the side of the road. Is that an actual job? In India, it probably is.
Depends how thick the poop was.
No, in India, I guess they just ignore it.
Canada's going to start coming up. That's going to be a job standing up in Canada.
Probably everywhere. The point is, right? In a big enough church, a pastoral position is actually a pretty slick gig. You only have to... Yes, thank you. Thank you, little lady. You only have to do Sundays and a few events during the week. You have to plan for it. You have to be there for people and organize some stuff. But, it is hard in smaller churches. Yeah, but I've seen, as a missionary son, difficult pastoral positions. Very difficult. Lots of spiritual conflict. Lots of sacrifices given to make it happen. But generally, no. They're not actually difficult jobs. They're pretty cushy jobs. Pretty cushy. There's a lot of fat pastors for a reason. Yeah.
Glutton and
right.
All those times we ate out with pastors, I was like, "Ooh, this is nice."
Let me tell you, every missionary who comes back to the States to get money again, they always gain like 20 pounds in the few months they do it. 10 pounds at least. All their kids do too. It's horrible. And then it's funny. Yeah, this is but you would get really unhealthy, which is funny. Like, all of us would get fat. She would get freakishly thin because her body couldn't process all the bad food. It was funny. It's really funny. But it really isn't that hard of a job. And generally they kind of coast through it anyway. Now you can make it a harder job in some ways if you're stupid. But if you're actually following God's will and you're actually putting yourself out there and getting all that flack from the devil in the world, then it's a really difficult job. And people are notoriously hard to wrangle. But newsflash, managers at any business or company have to do the same thing. Okay. And you could argue pastors can't fire, they can fire their staff, but they can't fire the people in the church. That is a lie. I have been kicked out of 2 churches now.
My grandpa's kicked out of several people.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
You can kick people out.
You
so
can.
it's just a little harder sometimes. More like it depends on how soft they are. Right?
Rub them the wrong way.
So you have a lot of people who take these church jobs. Didn't you get your coffee too?
I mean, I did, but it didn't have as much milk in it.
You're a mean person.
Fine,
drink she's waiting for me to talk so she can drink my coffee. It's vicious.
So I tasted it through a cup.
Golly. Anyhow, right, so you have a lot of guys who go for like these theologian degrees, or they're in college getting various whatever degrees, and they're very vaguely attached to spiritual matters, and they take on a pastoral position because it's a generally easy position that suits their verbal skills and their literature skills if they write books or something, right? It's almost like the equivalent of, like the religious equivalent of taking on a journalist job, right? Like it can be hard. Like you could make a journalist job hard if you like go after government stuff, or you like, the really bad stuff like Epstein Island, or the back in the day like Al Capone or something, right? That could make it hard and very unhealthy. And maybe even not that rewarding. And that's why you don't climb under tables, small child. And so, right, in a way it's like that. A lot of journalists back in the day would do articles and like write books and do the stuff they kind of wanted to do in the background, right? Pastors in a lot of ways. You can almost, a lot of modern pastors these days, it's a cushy gig. A lot of times they don't even have to interact with the congregation that much, especially if it's a bigger church, because they have pastors under them that do that. And then they'll have maybe like pizza with the pastors, which is awkward given the connotation of pizza in the modern pedophile culture. But you get the point, right? You've all been there. And then they have small groups, right? They have all this, and they, and you don't really engage with the pastor that much. He's kind of on a pedestal. And, I'm not that old, but I remember it was usually a little bit more different than that when I was younger. It's amazing how they've changed it into a business hierarchy in most churches, right? In the church, the pastor's like the CEO with a board. I'm surprised they haven't sold shares and stocks yet. Yeah, so you get a lot of guys in these pastoral positions who aren't really that on fire for God. They're kind of there, right? They say they're called and all that, but they're there because it's kind of a cushy job. You can still make a lot of money in it if you are generally successful and make it corporatized. You can usually get a lot of money from denominations who are pushing you. Even if you're independent, you can usually get some rich fat cats in there that'll pay the bills. And as long as you make them feel like they're good people and all the rest, right? And I know that seems extremely negative, but you gotta understand. My wife and I have seen a lot of churches. We've seen the gambit. There are lots of amazing pastors out there too, who really try hard and all the rest. But we've also seen how they're put on pedestals, like the missionaries, especially in our denomination, are put on pedestals.
The world missions is put on pedestals, while the U.S. missionaries are like the lower dogs.
Well, that's specifically in the Assemblies of God too. I don't know if it's like that in all denominations, but
the ag, as I call it,
the ag.
They're full of hags.
That's the first time you said that in front of me.
They're full of hags.
The ag.
The hags.
So it's one of those things. It's why they're functional atheists. Is a lot of them are actually probably atheists. Another portion of them don't take their faith that seriously and are very wishy-washy. And they're kind of like cops. They kind of just running through well, not the cop. Well, actually, most cops actually have pretty easy gigs too. Or if you're not in a really inner city yourself, what are you doing? You're doing some parking tickets and whatnot. You're just trying to get to your retirement. I'm not saying there aren't hard parts, but I've seen a lot of soft police around that Trump shooting, for example, that show me they ain't chasing a lot of perps over fences, if you know what I mean. Or some of those female cops coming in to arrest handicapped people who said bad things on the internet in England, huh? Entertaining. Oh, right. Ah,
Sure.
yeah. It's amazing to me. I don't know if this is, a bit of a side note, if this is just the Delta mentality, but everyone's always obsessed with being the guy who works the hardest in the room. It's got to be the Delta mentality, I guess. But it's like, have you ever run into someone who just absolutely tells you, like, my job is so easy, man. I just work a little bit and then I go home with my wife. It's great. No one says that. Everyone wants you to think that they're working their butts off and down to the bone. Now, a lot of people actually are. Don't get me wrong. But I find most people exaggerate
Or
a lot. Like,
try and make it how many
like you know how a woman will base her entire sexual a sexual attractiveness by the most attractive man she's ever dated. Well, the Delta has this habit of
He's
basing
got the ugly.
his average work, like how much he works averagely, by the one time he worked 1,000 hours in a week. Right, he works 80 hours 1 week. He just assumes, oh, I work 80 hours all the weeks, man. Right, always me, and you can't
Got your head back in the
and of course, this organization can't survive without me. And a lot of times they can't. They can, but probably if all the deltas in this position stopped, then they couldn't. But you get the point, right? And some of them are really important. Don't get me wrong. And this isn't me. Like deltas are great. It's just one of those things of that this obsession with I'm the one who works the hardest really gets to me sometimes. It's so annoying and it's so prevalent. It doesn't matter where it is. You get it a lot with pastors and on missionaries too, because this one I think has less to do with deltas and more to do with imposter syndromes.
So many churches to go to. I got so many newsletters to write. Oh my goodness, Amelia. I have written this many newsletters.
Oh no, you had to write a while. Like, don't get me wrong, writing's work, but it's fun work. I would write for a living
Simple.
I would write for a living just like that, boys. You pay me, man. I'll write all day long. I'll do those 12-hour days. It'll be a blast, right?
It takes so long to get a stay on straight.
Right, and it's funny again because we've seen the other side. We've seen all the sides. We've seen what work looks like to a lot. So bright. What work looks like to a lot of these people. Like I've actually seen this in the corporate world too. Like as a guy who's working in a restaurant in a really touristy area, I get a lot of these rich dudes who come in and they're working.
Their eating is working.
Yeah, their eating's working. Their wife going and shopping in all those shops that they were working while he's sitting in the bar. That's work to them, right? When guys like Musk try to tell you that they work like 12 billion hours, no, they don't. No, they don't. They work in these really cushy offices that are nicer than most people's houses.
They rather stay in their office.
Right? They have 1,000 like secretaries, secretaries and stuff doing stuff for them. They're working from their yacht or something, right? It's work. And it's a constant joke. And it's a lot of bull, right? Don't get me wrong. Working hard is good and getting goals and doing it. But don't listen to all these people who are constantly exaggerating, right? Because what are they trying to say? Well, they're trying to justify their wealth and their success in a world with mostly just given it to them, or they've sold their soul for it, or sold their sister's kidney for it in a lot of cases, or sold their sister for it, if you will. Epstein. But and so how do they convince you that the reason why you're not successful isn't because you haven't sold your kidneys or your sister or something, right? Well, they have to convince you you're not working hard enough. And to be fair, most people probably aren't working hard enough to achieve their goals. That's pretty fair. All right. And so they're tickling a partial truth to explain away why there's so much living high in life when they probably don't deserve it. Tesla isn't exactly a good company. It like even if I just go from the business standpoint, why is Tesla so big? That's because it got
First of all,
government.
it
It
changed
got
the
government
logo.
moolah. It got government money. Okay, it got all the government grants because it was making an electric car. And then they triggered all the fancy boy brains who want, ooh, I want fancy electric car. That's it. Without the government grants and the weird culture in the elite, Tesla would have been a failed company ages ago. But I think I got out of the weeds there a little bit. It's funny. Missionaries feel this a lot because they're often begging for money. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of times they are doing a lot of good, but when it comes down to it, they're begging for money they haven't earned. There are those who do work. Like there were some independent missionaries I really like, friends to this day. Who's who's awesome. Their sons were great. They turned out awesome. Friends of mine to the day we die. If we weren't all such weird sigmas about it, we might actually be together at some point, but we just can't. Like it's funny. If you've ever seen us crazy solo boys around, you'll see this. Like we'll congregate it in a group. We'll all enjoy it, and then we'll just scatter and not ever see each other for like 20 years. Even though we all loved it, right? We'll all talk about how we want to do it again, and then we won't do it. Some cases they live in a town like an hour away from me, and that we don't see them for years. It's just
it'll take one son somebody to get them all together.
Yeah, the acting alpha of the group.
You're not here.
Is one of the weirdest things I've ever experienced. Okay, missionary sons and all that, and third culture kids, right? We're more likely to develop sigma traits because we have to. We're either because we either turn into weirdos or we're gonna accept our solitude.
I've seen a lot of weirdos.
Yeah, and let me tell you, we've seen that. Like and so some of my friends in this group clearly have more, like they were going to be just standard deltas or bravos or something, but because they were taken out of their culture and put somewhere where they couldn't make any other friends, and the friends were so, like, in my case, every 4 years we went back to the States for a year. Like you can't have a solid friendship group if you're leaving them every 4 years in your development years. And plus there's also this thing hanging over your head. Everybody's from a different state or even a different country. Like the acting alpha of the group is from Taiwan. Okay. And everybody knows what happens when you graduate from high school. You all leave. It's hard to invest in that. And so you don't. You enjoy it while you're there, but you don't invest in hard long-term relationships. Like the kind of relationship you have is you're best buds when you see each other, and it's awesome. But you're not really invested because you're not going to see them in a day. You're not going to see them after a week. Unfortunately, you get into this habit with all your relationships, and it fucks with your head. At this point, I can't make solid relationships with other dudes that can last hard. Like I am fascinated by the alpha bravo dynamic, or just a group of deltas who like being around each other. I am fascinated by it, but some part of me can't seem to join in. It drives me nuts. But and don't get all weird about it. Like you're not a gamma because they want you around. You understand that? Like they enjoy when I'm around, but they don't think to invite me places. It's kind of, or like if I go off of my own for a while, they forget about me for a bit, right? Because you're not nominally part of the group. But then when you show up, they're like, "Oh, hey, yeah, you, let's go. This will be fun, good times, right?" I'm funny enough, I'm experiencing that in a video game I'm playing right now, which is hilarious. Even now, I know I'm doing it because I'm going off and doing my own thing right now while all the other guys are doing this crazy stuff. It's just children. Okay. I know, man. I didn't expect to talk about the sexual hierarchy right now, but yeah. It's really fascinating to watch someone who would have probably been just a standard Delta get pushed in a situation where they were stuck either breaking or becoming something Sigma like. And that was my one friend. And it's fascinating to watch because he was more able to attach with people, but he's cut himself off, even though he would have been just straight up Delta or Bravo, maybe Bravo, in a normal situation. But because he had to move around a lot and he was only there slightly, well, hopefully it was an accident. And I see a lot of bitterness in him sometimes because that feeling of betrayal is really strong. You know, the more I talk about it, the more I think he was more likely to be just a standard Bravo because he feels betrayed by his family and the perceived alphas in his life. And there's some characters in my group who were definitely like full-fledged Sigmas, and we're gonna be that from the beginning. Okay. I have one friend who cracks me up, the brother of that Bravo friend, who he had this whole thing when we would play video games. Is like, I don't know if you remember Age of Empires. He would always steal our gold. He would steal our gold mines. He'd steal his allies' gold mines and take everyone's gold and not do anything with it. And yet now, as an adult, he owns gold mines. Hilarious. And he is very much Sigma. Like he just you go, woo, yeah, you're funny. But like he just off to this to like I remember after he went back to the States and married his wife, he's just like pew gone. And then next day he shows up and he's like buying this massive house and all this other stuff, and he's doing all these crazy things everywhere. And I'm like, you and then he's gone again. Even though he lived in almost the same town as us, and I don't see him again forever. I find that hilarious. But seeing how the different dynamics work with being in forced solitude like that is really fascinating. My brother-in-laws both went the gamma route, and they were in the same situation. That one we suspect has more to do with my now deceased mother-in-law, but
well, she was deceased before she was even your mother-in-law.
That's fair. Does she count as a mother-in-law in that situation? I don't know.
She died before we got married, before we even dated.
I mean, is it something that? Oh man, there's a word for that when it happens to you after you're dead, and I can't think of it. Or
purgatory?
No, it starts with a P, and I can't pronounce it. It's like when they'll give someone a medal even though they're dead, or an award. Purple. You guys know what I'm talking about. No. You have to live to get a Purple Heart, wife. They don't give Purple Hearts to dead guys. You get injured. Well, also, I mean, no offense to you military guys out there, and I respect you if you get injured, but is this something you should get a medal for? I mean, can't anyone get shot? Maybe I'm an asshole. But I just, should you get a medal for it? Maybe give them some money for it, or like I'm sorry you got hurt, thanks for serving or something. But a medal, shouldn't a medal be something that like someone did something really difficult to do, not someone walked out on was trying to get with a hooker and then got shot by a Viet Cong sniper. Like, I mean, if you think about it, right, the guy who got injured storming Omaha or something, right, got the same medal that some guy in Vietnam who was sneaking out to go get with a hooker got shot by a sniper, right? He got the same medal. Should they get the same medal? I don't think so. But I'm all over the place all this.
Prosthetic?
No. It's a weird word. I can't say it right now. But that's a theorem.
I know. I'm not gonna say
Don't do it. Don't you do it. They're going to think all missionary kids are weird, and they are. We are really weird. It depends on the continent, too. It's a different kind of weird. African kids are just little. The ones who went to Africa were a little crazy, needed more self-control. They had cool stories, though. Like, I liked their stories.
chasing lions.
Like, they had the, like, impressive stories that other missionary kids were impressed by. Like, like she brought up, there was one who would always they talked about just offhandedly, it wasn't something he brought up in every conversation, how they would chase lions on motorcycles, and when the lion got tired, it would turn around and try to snatch him, and they had to turn around and drive away. And I'm like, you crazy. That's the entertaining stuff. Like, it wasn't like with Harvard guys where they're constantly trying to tell you they're from Harvard. I realized I could probably
What are you doing?
seeing if I want to go over these questions.
You gotta go over the next.
We should go over the questions real quick. Okay. We should nominally finish what we started. What's a giant story you've heard about in culture outside of Christian circles? Do they have any themes that remind you of the biblical take on the Nephilim giants? Remember,
Indigo?
Book of Enoch brings up the fact that giants, when they die, their spirits linger and become demons, essentially unclean spirits. So how you'd be surprised how many giant stories lean into that spiritual element. I'll be re-releasing the Grizzly Files on YouTube here in the coming weeks. Probably next week is when we'll start that, and we'll get into the Wendigo. What's wrong with you?
I said, "Oh, fun."
Life is so happy. Wait, you get to drink when we make new podcasts about creepy stuff. You'll get to drink wine and stuff and laugh. It'll be a good time. Hey, give me the last sip, woman. Fine, just take whatever. See her, the coffee thief. This is a new one. Usually she lets me drink my coffee. What are we doing? Anyway, so you'd be surprised how many stories kind of have similar themes. For example, the original Wendigo story has a really close tie to demonic concepts. Most people have this thing.
Deer on high. I mean,
well, again, like that deer, that's a modern public concept, the deer head thing. But you'll hear a variety of different stories, but the original kind of myth that came out from it was the Wendigo is an invisible giant, or a giant that can turn invisible in the far north and in the deep wildernesses, and it will invade your dreams with spirits and slowly drive you insane and push you towards cannibalism. Hence why you have this confusion over, is the Wendigo a spirit? Is it driving you nuts? Is it a physical animal out in the woods? Is it blah, blah, blah? The answer is it was all of those things, right? And so you have these connections with the demonic. There's other ones.
Would it be easier just to hype up on antidepressants? You get the same.
Not everyone who overdoses on antidepressants turns into a cannibal, wife. And recently I've been playing Borderlands 2 again, and I forget how many of those guys are cannibals.
Oh gosh,
that's funny cannibals. I feel like that's a fun way to make fun of Nephilim and their cannibalistic ways. just assume those weird midget dudes, but giant in Borderlands. Yes. Anyway, we'll keep through the story. Anyway, right, there's another story I was going to get into in Southeast Asia about these weird spirit demon giant things that guard temples.
Oh, I showed you those.
I knew about them beforehand.
Okay. But they're all over Suvarnabhumi Airport.
Yeah.
They have like none of them.
Remember, I told you about that story I'd heard about, and then you went, "Oh crap, I know about those."
Oh.
Yeah. All right. Question 3: if the rebellious Watchers mixed themselves with man, did they mix themselves with anything else on Earth? After all, depictions of Anubis and medieval drawings of demons are shown to have heads of animals and bodies of men. Can you think of any modern myths and urban legends with similar entities?
Can you say that word again?
Entities?
No, the one you're messing
with. Depicted. Now, fun thing about this, right? I'm gonna go to full screen here. Oh, it's so bright. Maybe that was a mistake. Anyway, you know all those Reddit stories you hear about, or like a story like the big one, like the Rake, who started out on some creepy forum somewhere. You know that most of Reddit is government stuff, right? We have the proof. I don't have it on me right now, but basically they did this whole thing and they tried to scrub it from the internet where they say, oh, the vast majority of Redditors and the ones who are most addicted to Reddit come from a specific Air Force base that just so happens to be full of CIA operations and headquarters and stuff. Which is interesting when you think about the fact that they can seed stories about creepy, evil stuff into the
I
zeitgeist,
remember you looked into that.
right? And then it's even better than when they do this with movies, right? How many times, like, I remember when I was talking about some of this stuff at work one day, I forget how it came up, and my boss literally looked at me and said, "Look, I didn't know you thought you lived in supernatural." I'm like, "That's how they get you." Right? That's the point of telling it in story format, is it makes anyone who sees something look insane. And it makes people instantly do things like, "Oh, it's just an animal headdress," right? That's the whole point. And it's even more effective with a Reddit story because the whole what's the whole thing in Reddit, right? Is that, oh, they're trying to make people think it's real and all that. And so when people share Rake stories or something, or attribute something they saw to something Rake like, everyone just goes, "Oh, you read the Rake story? That was started on Reddit. That's not actually real." Blah blah blah. Or a bunch of government people or people hired by CIA and stuff who were trying to hide the fact that these things exist because it leads people down very spiritual avenues to explain why these freaky things exist and why they are there and what the heck they are, that excuse me, that they seeded these stories. I mean, think about how easy it is to, right? Reddit gets created. They even created Reddit. They create anonymous accounts from this Air Force base, and then they seed these stories into the zeitgeist, and they push them using their algorithms so they become popular. And what do you know? Suddenly, you have plausible deniability for a whole host of nasty crap that you cooked up in a lab or was from ancient crap or whatever, or is just a physical manifestation of a demon or something. Interestingly, yeah, interestingly enough, I forget which book it was, but a guy in the medieval period studied a lot of witchcraft, and he changed all the spells because he was a smart dude. He changed all the spells and stuff in it so that you would get the idea of what they were doing if you ever saw it. But because he changed them, the evil people couldn't use it as a book to figure out how to do spells. Does that make any sense? Like, he would change details about them, but it was enough that you would know if you saw a witch doing it, which would be incredibly useful to have known with all the crap going down in Hollywood and all that. But he described a lot of the demons as having like weird, they'd be like owlmen or weird dudes riding pigs and stuff straight out of mythology almost. And you know, again, through mythologies and the depictions of gods and the descendants of gods, and you see it in Greece. I think I brought this up in a previous lesson as well when I was talking about it, but how many times did Zeus screw something or make some unnatural union happen out of, and some monster is created, right? Last time I brought this up, I brought up the Minotaur, which was Zeus trying to have revenge on some king who pissed him off for some random reason. Yeah, and he made his wife want to have sex with a bull. Right. Right. And oddly enough, there was also some skinwalking involved because she changed herself into a form of a bull to make the union happen. Oddly enough, the bull was actually a solid bull. It did not want to have unnatural relations with a human. It was tricked. That bull, not, that poor thing. I hope.
He must have had some udders.
Good thing the Minotaur was Baal, I guess. Don't let the Japanese get a hold of that one. Oh wait, they probably already have. Oh no, they have. I think I've seen some of it. Not in pervy ways.
Japanese.
Hmm. Anyway, so awkward potatoes on that one. Oh man. Yeah. So the point is, someone liked us for that. Stop it! You're gonna encourage me to do bad things. Right.
You need more coffee?
Too much coffee.
No.
Okay. It's a good thing I have a day off tomorrow, finally. But yeah. Don't tell me what to do. I'll tell you what to do, Bryce. Ha, I got my last sip. Suck it, wife. Don't try to. Don't. Always rebellious.
Great.
Yeah, that was a bad idea. Why did you do that? Put my child to sleep already. You're getting distracted. She's very stubborn. You can't see her, but she's right there with bright open eyes.
She's kicked you.
It was brutal. I didn't feel it though because she kicked my chair. Joke's on you.
You feel that now?
Yeah. Anyway, I always thought that whole Reddit connection was really interesting because if you don't know, there's actually a lot of really weird rake-like sightings.
We tried to look it up again and it
Yeah.
showed up.
No, they scrubbed it from the internet. You had to use some, the Wayback Machine type stuff, which you can find it. But I always thought it weird that there was rake-like sightings all the time. And there was actually some interesting video footage too that kind of creeped the hell out of me back in the day. And so I knew the rakes was a Reddit thing from the beginning when I was looking up creepy stuff. So I was like, what is this weirdness? And then I'm like, well, it could be like a collective memory, blah, blah, blah. Or even, there's also this thing, like the way Reddit works and these creepy story things work is people add to it. They could have literally waited for something to start getting popular and then added elements of actual physical things that they wanted plausible deniability for. How easy is that? All they have to do is have a Reddit account and occasionally throw stories up there. Okay, right?
And dress up like a furry.
Yeah, that too. And
It's true.
And but even though that's like the easiest thing in the world to do, for some reason you're a nut job if you bring all that stuff up. That's all fascinating. Anyway, the world's much weirder than you think it is. So much weirder. So much weirder. And I'm getting lost in all the different directions I could think things. I don't know. I'm thinking it's
Your mouth ain't working fast enough.
I think it's like an hour and a half in, but I'm on a roll and I'm curious. Yeah. Oh man, there's so many interesting ways to talk about it. And it's so hard to know too what's being lied about, what's not being lied about. I brought up the whole vampire thing.
Please do not bring any more of that up yet.
Oh, okay, I don't need to bring that up. I was entertained once.
You were entertained once. Congratulations.
Oh, maybe I should just regale you guys with weird, crazy stories. Some of them, I don't know if they're all true or some of them are fun.
Story time with Uncle Grizz.
But the really crazy stuff, like you think like the Bigfoot stories are nuts. Oh man, I've heard stories about 15-foot tall werewolf things out in the woods. Just
We literally live right by it.
That's why I prayed before we started.
Okay.
Yeah. And you might say, oh, that's not pretty. Like the sources kind of they jive. And if you think about the fact that these things, if they exist, right, I won't tell you for sure anything exists on this front. I can't prove it to you. And as some of these stories have shown, it's probably a bad idea to hang on to any remains. So if you do manage to kill one, maybe just take a picture and don't keep the body because the spirits seem to hang around. If you know what I mean.
Don't keep any body part of anything.
I mean,
Just
come on.
no,
If
no.
you kill a werewolf, I can understand the male desire to put its head up somewhere. I mean, come on. I mean, you killed something that's 15 foot tall and all that. I mean, you want to show that shit off. I get it. I do. Who wouldn't want to say, hey, look at what I killed, boys? Come on.
Make it a mysterious fishing story.
And there I was, fighting the biggest marlin I ever knew. And then it's swallowed.
The authors.
Oddly enough, right? You don't think of this part, but most of the dogmen and like human wolf stories talk about them swimming and chasing people on boats. Well, why wouldn't they be able to swim? Of course they'd be able to swim. They have hands. Though my personal favorite story, and I have no idea what to make of it, is a story of a guy way out in the deep swamps of, it might have been Mississippi or Louisiana. I don't know which one. Can't remember. It's been too long. And he's fishing, and he sees one of these crazy dogman werewolf type things, like Anubis looking thing, jump in the water and start swimming. And he's going, "What the heck?" And then a catfish swallows it. A big freaking catfish, so big that it could swallow a 7-foot tall monster. And and I'm like, I don't know what to make of that, but I'm like, hey, Jonah, right? Sure. Big old catfish. First of all, hilarious. If this story is real, that means some Nephilim mother trucker that somehow got here, whether it came out of the center of the earth or something, or was a new creation in some lab somewhere, or a genetic whatever descendant of these giants from the old world, got to this point, got in a river, and it was just swallowed by a freaking catfish. And that's how it died. Talk about a bitter demon in the afterlife. You know? Could you imagine how all the demons were like making fun of it? Like, so how did you die? Oh, a crusader hyped up by the spiritual power of God stabbed me through the throat, that bastard. Oh, that I was surrounded by a bunch of torchbearers praying against me, and I couldn't kill enough of them in time before they shot me. And then the one in the corner, I was swallowed by a catfish. What? Swallowed by a catfish. Oh, yeah. But still, at the same time, think of it like this, right? Who would think to make up a story like that? If you're going to make a story about a werewolf or a dogman type creature, that's going to be the center of the story. The story is not going to be a freaking catfish. That's what intrigues me. You're not going to make it a big old catfish if that's the story you're making. So I'm oddly intrigued by the story just because why would you include a freaking catfish in that kind of story unless it really did happen? I mean, you can say maybe the person's insane, but I like you got to understand kind of how hallucinations work at the same time. They're not just any random thing happening. It's complicated. And then we're gonna get into DMT stuff and their ties to demonic realms and all that shit. We don't need to go there right now. We got so many lessons.
There's a portal in the catfish's belly. Just kidding.
Jeez. If Anthony is on, that should be the Indian sword to 6 catfish. Yes!
Bring a fish head.
Skydog, if you come back to that, I don't know if you're still on, but yes.
Quick, let me get Rosie. He might come back on. Rose?
That is brilliant. You should kill off one of your villains with the giant catfish. You could even like set it up like for whatever reason it's happening in the swamp and your main character almost dies by catfish but escapes. And then tricks the demonic entity to follow him into the swamp where he gets swallowed by the catfish. Best joke ever. Oh, no, man. Skydog is on. You don't have to. It's just a fun thought. But if you ever do come up with a demonic catfish, I know you saw it here. Maybe I'll just do that too in one of my stories. Good times. Whew. Boy. I'm thinking I should probably get off here soon. Because I still want to do crazy stuff on online gaming tonight, and it's already really late. Oh man. Whew.
Lucy, by your feet. Lucy.
So, wife's jealous of the dog.
She doesn't come to me anymore. She goes to you.
Sure she does. She just hasn't seen me all day.
She's
What?
Lucy.
I have 2 jealous bitches in this house right now. One's furry and one's
Shut up.
one tells me to shut up all the time. Oh gosh, man.
One steals your coffee. There you go.
Skydog and Bryce, you guys had to come in so late. Now I want to hang out, and I feel like I got to get off at some point. But now I'm beguiled and I'm encouraged to say all kinds of crazy things that are bouncing in my head all the time. And all the weird things I've researched. Like there was a time where I did a lot of research because I was a delivery driver, and so I had hours of my life where I could just listen to stuff or read stuff. So I did. Oh man. Oh, particularly crazy. You know, you guys, if you ever want to go on a trip, you should look up some of the Arabic ghost hunters. Those dudes are wild, man. Those guys are crazy. It's either all fake or it's awesome because you know how the like typical wishy-washy weirdo ghost hunter is in the States. No, because they have that kind of mentality of like the demonic. I mean, they don't have accurate views of it. They don't have the proper prayer from Jesus Christ to deal with them, and it shows in a lot of their videos. But they have a mentality of like, you don't belong here, I'm coming after you. So if they see something weird, they have a tendency to like chase after it. Like a door slams, they'll like kick it open and go, bitch, what you doing? And I'm like, yes. That's the right reaction. Though some of it gets really gnarly. I warn you right now. Don't go in without a little prayer on your side to make sure nothing gets some attention out of you. Because remember, attention from you, a son of God, can lead to them getting more power, so they'll work to get more attention. Ah, man. Whew. This is not good attention. Look at him. He's kind of angry at you now. I see his tail wagging. He's like, man, I'm a cat.
It's not my fault. You're the only cat I
had. Oh man. Let's see. Big fish.
Go fish.
Now I'm trying to think of fish stories for you guys. Ooh, this is kind of interesting and random. I bet you haven't heard of before. The Hawaiian mythologies revolve around Atlantis type beings who had civilizations on their islands beforehand. If you hear Atlantis in old stories, kind of assume connections to the old pre-flood civilizations, right? Flood, all that. They have a lot of connections to like giants and stuff. This is why Atlantis. Oh well, I'm talking about Atlantis right now. Yeah. Atlantis specifically. There's a reason why it's kept alive in our culture constantly, is because it is referring to those old civilizations. I don't know if either of you were here for my famous like the Pope wears a fish hat incident, which is
Heidi Baribeau.
Heidi Baribeau's that one. But yes, the Pope's hat is a fish hat, which is basically leading into this old Atlantis priestly class that wore these funky fish hats.
So the fish,
because it was referring to like fish gods, if you will, which sounds funky. But there is this concept, right? Where does the beast come in Revelations? It comes out of the ocean. There's a lot of thought in Arabic worlds and Islamic worlds as well, and actually some Christian thought as well. And going back to ancient Hebrew, the ancient Hebrew view that the ocean is the ultimate chaos, the ultimate primeval chaos. This is why when Jesus was on the boat and he commanded all the storms to stop, this is why the disciples were so freaked out, right? To them, the waters is like a source of evil, like that deep ocean thing. So when Jesus can command them to stop, it's like, whoa. It's like the equivalent in our culture of someone walking up on hell and telling them to shut up, and they do. Is the kind of mentality, right? So That's why a lot of the aquatic Atlantic themed stuff is pushed in our cultures constantly. And Atlantis is often viewed as a positive, when in reality they were like demonic giant clan bullshit. That's and it's frustrating because I love this idea of the underwater city being cool. I want it. I deserve it. Unfortunately, it's probably run by the devil and his cronies.
Writing your
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I make a positive version. Like, as I don't know if you read all of. Well, guy, I gotta update it.
Yeah,
The oh, I know.
It was like the first one you put up.
No, it was the fourth.
What was the fourth
Fourth one, yeah. I know Skydog read at least the
Yeah.
first one, right? The one with the in the tunnels.
Yeah.
But anyway, so my brain, the Hawaiian and a lot of Polynesian cultures, they have this concept that these Atlantis type beings lived in their mountains and live in their mountains and had ancient civilizations there, and that's where a lot of their mythologies and stuff comes from, including a were shark.
Oh, the shark people.
Were shark, yeah, a dude who could turn into a freaking shark. That's entertaining
It's
to
not
me.
just Shark Boy and
Shark-
Mama Girl.
No. He has a shark mouth on his back, and it changes him into a shark. Entertaining. He is some sort of weird fish god dude who then has falls in love with a woman, marries her, and has an offspring who eventually, after tasting meat, decides to start eating all his friends, and he would lure them into the ocean and change into a shark and eat
That's where the movie Jaws
them. Right. Interesting though, we have these themes again. Weird god from the evil chaotic ocean gives a woman takes a woman for sexual means, creates a child with him, and creates a weird demonic monster that's part man, part animal. It has unique abilities and skills and all the rest, and has all these powers. Sound familiar? Connected to Atlantis and all this other stuff. It's all connected. It's really fascinating. Don't trust anything about anything coming from an Atlantis type civilization. It's a bad idea. Bad. Whew. Anyway, I think I'll leave it at that for now, because if I keep talking, I'll probably get something's attention and I'll have to pray against it all night. And I want to,
enjoy your night.
yeah. It doesn't happen every time, but you got to be
But
careful.
enjoying your night.
I'm like, we've had some spiritual attacks on stream, but they're usually the only other.
Well, that was at the apartment way back when.
Yeah, that's true. Still, I've only ever had one physical manifestation, and that was when I was dating you. Yeah, they didn't like it.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. No, it was a compliment.
I
They were like, "Don't you date her?" I'm like, "Oh, I will." It's a good time. Anyway, that was fun. Sorry the lesson took so long, and I feel like that lesson needs more work. So thanks for joining me for these streams as I do my final edits. I am getting ready to do Kickstarter. If you guys want to support the work a little bit, the idea would be to put all these lessons into a physical book you would buy, or a digital version that you could put on your phone or something, and then you can use it to teach small groups of young men and starting points for conversations and all that. Do I know when that's going to happen?
No.
Hopefully soon. Oh God, I'm going to die. Anyway, soon, when I have time and I'm not working constantly. Tomorrow's my big day for it after I sort out rent. We started with that. I mean, it should be a nice thing. They keep telling me that I don't owe any rent when I do, and I know they're gonna charge me extra if I don't get it sorted,
Well,
but they
that
won't let me
stupid
pay
nothing
till I
works
get it
anymore.
sorted. It's gonna be fun, but you know what? It's a problem for tomorrow. So join in. Keep an eye out for the Kickstarter. It'll be fun when we get it going. Next lesson, of course, will be Sunday, and it'll be on the Tower of Babel, which is a lot of fun.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got a couple images in my life.
Yeah, AI images always good. And like, subscribe, join the Discord if you want to bother me any time of the day. And And of course, you can message me on Social Galactic if you want my attention, or join the streams. It was fun having some interactions, guys. Catch you later, Skydog. See you, Bryce. Thanks for showing up. You guys are awesome. And I'm going to save my voice before it dies. It's probably too
Hey,
late.
you're not sick anymore.
I know. I was like feeling it wanting to come back with all that talking. All right. Let's see. Yeah, Sunday. The stream will be on Monday, though, but the actual text on Archaven will be up on Sunday. So, you know.
Make sure you post on the right Sunday this time.
That's true. Technical difficulties are technical.
Oh, that's funny.
I might have put it on. I'll wait up all night. Aw. Wow. That's very encouraging.
Here, this is what you should
Bryce
do.
is making me blush.
This is what you should do. Sounds right as your shirt.
Oh, gosh.
As soon as what you should do is
get a better camera.
Well, that too. We have one. Where's the new one? I don't know the new one. But
Teacher's pet. Sky.
What I was thinking was like one day we gotta figure out how to do the when to do the
yeah, show the dog once more for Skydog. He'll never leave otherwise. She looks so scared. It's okay, Poopy. Yeah. You say bye to Skydog. Tell everyone to come back next Sunday. Oh my God, yeah.
Well, I was thinking was before I got distracted. Poochie. is the Grizzly Files.
Oh yeah.
You should do that on one of those days. So.
Which days?
I don't know. Sunday.
Probably not Sunday because I don't want. Probably Wednesday would probably work. Well, I mean, it's good. I mean, we're gonna be out of like nights off for sure. Anyway, wife, we can always. Here's the backseat talks.
Buffy.
Remember, wife, we can. That's not a live stream. We can record that whenever, so we can just record it on a day off and then post it on the right day.
There you go. You just sit in my chair.
And besides,
be all cute.
Make him jealous. Make him jealous.
There you go.
Oh my! Oh no! Chasing the cat. There she goes. Yeah. So be on the lookout. I will be re-releasing that podcast we did a little while and starting it back up on creepy stuff.
Because we recorded in the closet.
That's. We don't have a closet for it anymore. So we're gonna probably just do it here.
There's the pantry.
I'm not doing it in the pantry. We'll just have to do it out in the open. There's no other way around it. You guys have to put up with bad sound. Yeah.
I always wanted to drink wine in the pantry.
And because I'm a crazy person, I'm probably also gonna do video game content, and I'm just too tired to do multiple channels. So that would be fun. So if you ever want to learn how to play Foxhole, you're welcome. That's gonna confuse so many people. It's like, oh wow, I like this guy's tutorials. This is awesome. What's his streams like? The fuck are we talking about? Giants of it. The catfish swallowing werewolves? What is it? I just want to know how to shoot people online. It's okay. It's gonna be fun. I'm gonna love it. It's gonna be a good time. Oh man. Oh yeah. I don't know if you ever watched the Skydog, but I made a video. One of my videos.
Your redness is still not competing with my darkness.
This is true. Videos that made like the most views was actually a Star Citizen video, and I almost got ratioed, but I still had more likes than dislikes. It was because I accidentally called out all the rich boys on there who are spending way too much money on spaceships, like you, Skydog. No, it wasn't the point. It was really funny, and they all splurged out on me and freaked out when I was just saying, hey, you guys have fun buying those ships, but I'll never understand it. Blah blah blah. And they lost their minds. 14 hours. Dude, my internet sucks so bad. I'm probably going to break and try to see if I can make Star Citizen work on my computer again. It's going to be rough, bro. But those Those persistent hangers,
the
man.
only way I could get in contact with his wife is on Star Citizen. 'cause
Oh,
I
Bryce
added
plays
her,
too. Awesome. That's
but-
good. Oh yeah. I mean, lately I've been playing.
You need to get better internet. We need to get more computers.
Got all the things, man.
God.
Why am I not rich? No. But yeah, so that's funny. That's actually on this channel. If you look at videos, I forget which one it is. Look for the one with the most views. It's hilarious. It's so mundane too, and they got so mad. Looking forward to catching up with these. Thanks, Vince. You are coming in at the end. I already did all the like, subscribe, shares, and get ready for the Kickstarter coming up. But now I wish we could stay longer for you. But you are gonna have to get caught up. But yeah, right now I've been obsessed with a simple game. You know what? I should get you interested in this game. It's not as flashy as Star Citizen, but you missed the Skydog. I knew I was only a co-host.
Rosie, I'm gonna have to sell your pictures again.
Oh man. But yeah,
That's a horrible joke.
I should make you play Foxhole sometime, Skydog. It's a good time. It's a war that never ends, and you have to. It is literal pain as you have to build every tank and every bullet. It's a good time though. It's the funniest things ever. Someday you should join, and we can go machine gun up a bunch of furries. It's a good time. Like literally, one faction is for some reason full of furries, and then the other faction, which is vaguely German looking, but more like World War I French, but vaguely German, has a bunch of Russians on it. So it's like a bunch of Russians shooting furries. It's hilarious. I'm very entertained. Which reminds me, I need to go make some flamethrower tanks. Well, prepare to make flamethrower tanks because we haven't teched them yet. So I have to make a facility that will eventually be able to make flamethrower tanks. Yeah. I'll tell you when the flamethrower tanks are ready, and then you better join because we need to burn furries. Anyway, now that YouTube thinks I'm violent, I'm actually going to make good on getting off because we're almost at the 2-hour mark, and I can hear my children crying. I'm probably keeping them up. This is the point where ATF joins the channel. The flamethrower tanks. Ooh, now we're talking. Remember the killdozer? Add a flamethrower, baby. Now we're on board. Push everything out of the way and then light it on fire. And my son is telling me he has to go poop. Okay, I really got to get off now. It was a fun talking to all you guys. It's been good. I'm not going to make the dog get on screen. You'll have to come back next week for that. Suck it up, Skydog. See you guys later on Social Galactic and all that. Later. Oh, God, I forgot the extra button press. Dang it.